We're told that a watch is a tool to tell time, but that is a lie. If humans only wanted to know the hour, a $10 plastic watch would suffice. No. When you see a Rolex Submariner on a man's wrist, you are not looking at a timekeeper. You are looking at a weapon of psychological warfare. You are looking at a statement of power, scarcity, and survival. Today, Rolex is a money-printing machine, generating over $10 billion a year. It sits on top of the luxury world as an untouchable monopoly. But a century ago, the giants of watchmaking looked at Rolex and laughed. They called its founder a fraud. They claimed his ideas would ruin the industry. What they didn't know was that this outsider was about to orchestrate the most ruthless corporate takeover in luxury history. This isn't a story about gears and springs. This is a story of stolen patents, psychological manipulation, and a brutal trade war that almost pushed an entire country into bankruptcy. The year is 1905. The capital of watchmaking is not Switzerland, it is London. And the undisputed kings of the industry are pocket watches. They are large, heavy, and elegant. Enter Hans Wilsdorf. He wasn't Swiss. He wasn't even a watchmaker. He was a 24-year-old German orphan with a marketing brain that bordered on prophetic. Wilsdorf looked at the pocket watch and saw a relic of the past. He wanted to strap the clock to the human wrist. The traditionalists mocked him. Elite watchmakers laughed, claiming that wristwatches were a feminine novelty. They argued that a watch on the wrist would be exposed to constant movement, dust, and moisture. It would break within weeks. And they were right. The technology back then couldn't handle it. But Wilsdorf didn't care about the current technology. He cared about the narrative. He knew that if he could solve the dust and water problem, he would own the future. In 1915, British wartime taxes skyrocketed. Wilsdorf, realizing that patriotism doesn't pay the bills, packed his bags and moved his operations to Geneva, Switzerland. He needed a name for his company. It had to be short, easy to pronounce in any language, and look symmetrical on a watch dial. After hundreds of combinations, he claimed a genie whispered it into his ear. Rolex. Now he had the name. Now he needed the ultimate weapon to destroy his rivals. In 1926, Rolex announced the Oyster, the world's first truly waterproof and dustproof wristwatch. The Swiss elite was stunned. How did a German marketer solve a problem that had plagued Iswiker's finest artisans for generations? The answer? He didn't invent it. He bought it. Two Swiss inventors, George Perregaux and Paul Perregard, had patented a revolutionary screw-down crown system. They were brilliant engineers, but terrible businessmen. Wilsdorf saw the patent, recognized its lethal potential, and bought the exclusive rights before anyone else could blink. He took their engineering, wrapped it in the Rolex name, and built an empire on it. But owning the tech wasn't enough. Wilsdorf needed a spectacle. In 1927, a young British secretary named Mercedes Gleitz swam across the freezing English Channel. Around her neck was a Rolex Oyster. She swam for over 10 hours. When she emerged from the water, the watch was ticking perfectly. Wilsdorf took out a full-page ad on the front cover of the Daily Mail. The world went mad. While other brands were talking about internal jewel movements and micromechanics, Rolex was talking about survival, endurance, and victory. Rolex didn't win by making the best watch. They won by making the best headline. By the 1960s, Rolex was the king of mechanical luxury. But in December 1969, an existential threat arrived from the East, and it almost wiped Rolex off the face of the earth. A Japanese company named Seiko released the Quartz Astron.
Instead of hundreds of tiny, expensive gears handmade by Swiss masters, this watch used a tiny battery and a quartz crystal. It was 100 times more accurate than the most expensive Rolex, and it cost a fraction of the price. This event is known as the Quartz Crisis. It was an absolute slaughterhouse. Within a decade, over 60,000 Swiss watchmakers lost their jobs. Nearly 2/3 of Swiss watch companies went completely bankrupt. The giants of Switzerland panicked. They tried to compete. They started making their own cheap battery-powered watches. They lowered their prices. They begged for mercy. But Rolex did something insane. They did absolutely nothing. While the rest of Switzerland was trying to adapt to the future, Rolex chose to become a monument to the past. They leaned into the microphone and told the world, yes, digital watches tell time better, because digital watches are appliances. A Rolex is not an appliance. It is an heirloom. It is art. They actually raised their prices. They made their watches harder to buy. They turned a mechanical inefficiency into the ultimate status symbol. If you buy a quartz watch, you buy a gadget that depreciates. If you buy a Rolex, you buy a piece of history that outlives you. It was the ultimate psychological judo move. Rolex turned a tech defeat into a luxury monopoly. Under Swiss law, this foundation is classified as a charitable trust. That means Rolex does not have to disclose its profits, its executive salaries, or where its billions of dollars go. It pays virtually zero corporate tax. The world's most aggressive luxury empire is legally disguised as a non-profit charity. So the next time you look at that crown logo, remember, Hans Wilsdorf didn't build a watch company. He built a religion. And in the Church of Luxury, time is money, but mystery is priceless.